What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Pack a Day podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. Happy Labor Day. Hope you are enjoying your long weekend. We are getting closer and closer and closer to NFL football. A great weekend of college football, a crazy LSU Florida State game on Sunday night. It'll be Thursday night football before you know it, but a very fun episode lined up for you today, talking Green Bay Packers as always. And what I thought would be fun today would be ranking the Packers' 10 best superpowers as they go into this 2022 season. Now, superpower might be a bit aggressive. We could talk about the Packers' biggest strengths and so on and so forth, but I think sometimes there are certain things that just set apart teams and players and can really make them that much more potent and effective and just have opportunities to win football games because of it. For example, I'll use one that is gone, and that's Devonte Adams, right? Devonte Adams on the outside with his releases was an absolute cheat code. What he can do at the line of scrimmage and getting cornerbacks to basically wave at air as they try to get their hands on him is a cheat code. It is a superpower. So whether you want to call these advantages, cheat codes, superpowers, whatever you want to call them, I think Green Bay has 10 of them legitimately. And I wanted to go through them and I wanted to rank them from number 10 to number 1. So let's start off at number 10 for the 10 superpowers or advantages that could give Green Bay a path to a Super Bowl this upcoming season. Number 10 is one that we just barely kind of got to see a season ago. And that's having 3 true cover corners: Eric Stokes, Jair Alexander, Rasul Douglas. And I am so hopeful, not only the cover corners, but this entire defense. I just want to see this defense at its full capacity. At the playoff game last year against the 49ers, and I know it wasn't ideal conditions, I know it was against Jimmy Garoppolo, but we got to see really, I think, what that defense could look like. Now, even in that game, I know Zadarius Smith isn't on the team anymore, but Zadarius Smith, not himself, Whitney Merciless, not himself, also not on the team, but Jair Alexander only played a handful of snaps in that game. I still didn't feel like we got to see the Death Star working at full capacity. And I'm so hopeful that we will get to see that as we go into this season. Hopefully it can stay that way throughout the course of the year. But we only got, I want to say, like 8 snaps last year with Stokes, Douglas, and Jair Alexander on the field at the same time. And that just has the ability to be so game-changing for the defense. Let's not forget, as Green Bay kicked off the season last year, they were looking at Jair Alexander and Kevin King on the outside with Chandon Sullivan in the slot. That's the defense that they went into business with against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the NFC Championship 2 years ago. And Tom Brady targeted Kevin King and Chandon Sullivan over and over and over. If you have a weak spot at corner, the best quarterbacks and the best teams in the league will find it. And if you don't, if you have 3 legitimate corners who can cover zone, man, etc., and consistently take down opposing wide receivers, and wide receivers are always going to get theirs, right? There's going to be plays. It's not like all of a sudden the opposing offense is going to go 0 for 32 passing, right? There's going to be completions. But if you make that hard down the field, that just gives your pass rush more time. It makes the quarterback completely flustered and frustrated. It makes you take a lot of checkdowns, and then that can play into some other Green Bay strengths that we'll get to in just a moment. But I love these 3 corners. I do still think Eric Stokes has some growth to go through. I think he's going to be a phenomenal corner in the league. I think we saw what he's capable of a season ago. I think he will continue to get better, but I still am very bullish on what he will ultimately become. I think Rasul Douglas was just one of those absolute steals, and then Jair Alexander, maybe the best cover corner in the entire league. I think that trio is going to be one of the Packers' true superpowers this upcoming season. Number 9 is Matt LaFleur, and specifically his scheme, his mismatches, and maybe most importantly, his ability to scheme players open. I've talked about this before. I truly believe that if you are a coach, offensive coordinator, special teams coordinator, defensive coordinator, and you're responsible for game planning against an opposing team, I need to see from you 3 to 5 times where it is clear to me that you just outsmarted the other team, that you found something on tape, a weakness, a mismatch, etc., that you can take advantage of, and you take advantage of it. And for me, I see that far more often than not with Matt LaFleur, that he is able to find a handful of plays per game, whether it's a running play, passing play, play action, etc., where he just knows how to take advantage of an opposing defensive coordinator and an opposing defense and figure out a mismatch that's advantageous for his side. And if you can get that a handful of times a game and put your offense in advantageous positions, you are more than doing your job. And I have seen that through the last 3 seasons with Matt LaFleur. Now, is it every game and you're seeing these huge wide open players game in and game out? Not always, not all the time. That's tough to do. But I think on the whole, especially going back to how, Mike McCarthy's offense was specifically at the end of his tenure, and then going to Matt LaFleur's and seeing him scheme open players and get players in bunches and free releases, like it's just a night and day difference. And I really do believe that that is a very special trait, and it's one that Green Bay uses to their advantage. And it's really one of the reasons, not the main reason, Aaron Rodgers is the main reason, but one of the reasons why Aaron Rodgers is back playing at an MVP level these past couple seasons. Number 8 is Rashan Gary, and more specifically, his bull rush, or even better, his ability to convert speed to power. That is a special, devastating move for opposing offensive tackles. Now, Rashan Gary still needs to work on ironing out his overall move set. He doesn't have a ton of moves at his disposal. It's not like he's pulling out a spin move. When he tries to go speed around the edge, he really struggles to bend around the corner from time to time. But when he gets going, and you are an offensive tackle and you don't get your feet anchored underneath you, man, he will bull rush you into oblivion, and it is a special move. And sometimes I think that those speed rushes off the edge, I think he even knows at times, like, all right, I'm not going to really bend around the edge here and get to the quarterback that way, but I'm setting up speed rush, speed rush, speed rush, and just when you think I'm going speed rush again, yeah, you're going to set and go back for that speed rush, and I'm just going to pile drive you back into the quarterback, and you have no chance. And it is a work of art to see what he can do against opposing 300-pound plus offensive linemen, and just basically bull rushing them right into the quarterback's lap and getting to the quarterback, causing chaos, causing turnovers, forcing fumbles, getting sacks. He is a special player, but that ability to convert speed to power and push an offensive tackle back into the pocket is a really, truly special trait. And it helps him in all facets of the game when he's setting an edge, the ability to use heavy hands and use a long arm to stay disengaged, and then to actually disengage from the offensive tackle and go make the play, but specifically setting the hard edge. And then again, bull rushing the quarterback back. Like, both of those are very special things. And his ability to use power at the point of attack to just keep offensive tackles completely, literally off balance is, to me, one of the Packers' true superpowers. Number 7 is one that I can't say 1,000% for sure is yet. I am projecting this to be one of their superpowers, and that is the true unadulterated speed at inside linebacker with both Devondre Campbell and Quay Walker. We saw a couple years ago against Tampa Bay, both in the regular season and in the NFC Championship game, what 2 linebackers like Devin White and Devonte David can do for a defense. Flying around the field, making those, those holes in the zone in the middle of the field seem that much smaller. Seeing those stretch zone plays and those toss plays to the outside have almost no chance because the linebacker's beating your running back to the spot. Seeing linebackers fill a gap and fill a hole faster than it can even develop and open up in the first place. That is a special trait. And at the time, it was frustrating when the Packers were playing Devonte David and Devin White, saying like, man, it would be nice just to have, 3/4 of one of those type of players. And in comes Devondre Campbell. They find him as an absolute steal, basically on the scrap heap at the end of the free agent market. And he becomes a first-team All-Pro, flying everywhere, becoming one of the best tackling linebackers in all of football, being able to get sideline to sideline, using his height and speed in coverage. Just a real, true gem of a find. And then they bring in Quay Walker as a first-round pick, and he looks like a clone of Devondre Campbell. I've mentioned this before. I will double down on it again now. There is going to be a learning curve for Quay Walker. There are going to be mistakes. There are going to be blown coverages. There are going to be missed tackles. But there are also going to be flashes of holy crap, because he is fast, he hits hard, he is intimidating, he has good instincts, and you will see those flashes, and I think those will outweigh some of the mistakes, and I think those mistakes will start to go away as the season progresses, not unlike Eric Stokes, who we saw a season ago, progress as the regular season went along. So I do believe Devondre Campbell, Quay Walker, the speed, the unadulterated speed in the middle of that defense will be one of the Packers' true superpowers this upcoming season. Number 6 is the overall organization's scouting, development, and philosophy along the offensive line. So this goes as far as, first of all, the scouts, finding guys like Zach Tom in the 5th round, David Bakhtiari in the 4th round, being able to, pick up an Elton Jenkins in the 2nd round, Josh Myers in the 2nd round, Jake Hansen in the 6th round, Royce Newman in the 4th round, Yosh Nijman as an undrafted free agent, Caleb Jones as an undrafted free agent, Rasheed Walker in the 7th round, Sean Ryan in the 3rd round. And I know some of those guys still very unproven, but you can go back to TJ Lang, go back to Josh Sitton, go back to Mark Tauscher, you can go back as far as you want. Green Bay's ability for years now to not only scout and find offensive linemen, but then to develop those offensive linemen. And I think even taking that a step further with Matt LaFleur recently and this, Adam Stenavich, Luke Butkus of, hey, we don't care if you were a left guard, left tackle, right tackle, center, right guard, it doesn't matter. You are going to play along the offensive line, and we're going to play our best 5 offensive linemen. We've heard Matt LaFleur say it over and over and over. But I think it all goes hand in hand. It's one thing to say that, but if you're not finding the talent and then you're not developing the talent, the philosophy is nothing. If you find the talent, develop the talent, and have the wrong philosophy, that's nothing. It all has to work together. And I think it's truly, in English, in soccer, Premier League and Bundesliga and all those, they have developmental, prospects that like goalies, like some teams will be amazing at developing goalies. And then, when they get a great one, they'll sell it off and use that money to buy forwards and midfielders, etc. And then they'll get another goalie that they've developed and they'll sell them off. The Brewers right now, awesome at developing starting pitchers. Some of them may be struggling a bit more right now than others, but they've been really fantastic at developing some very high-end pitchers in their staff. And eventually, if they can continue to do that, they'll be able to sell some of those and be able to, in this case, trade some of those, bring in more power and hopefully bring in more offense and then keep the door revolving. That's just why they traded Josh Hader. It hasn't worked for either team. That's neither here nor there, but that's in other sports what teams try to do. With the Packers, they have a system in place for developing, finding, and having a philosophy to get the most out of their offensive linemen. And I think it is one of the true real developmental properties in all of the NFL for a team that develops any position. I think it's the best. I don't think there's any other team that develops any other position as good as the Packers find and develop offensive linemen. And that is a huge skill. And again, one of the Packers' true superpowers for decades now, honestly. So I have to go with that one as well. Number 5 is Gutekunst and the pro scouting staff, because we have now seen, especially really since Gutekunst has got here, but the ability to find players even in season or towards the end of free agency, whether it's Devondre Campbell, clearly Rasul Douglas, whether it's an undrafted guy like Yosh Nijman, whether it's, Tramon Williams, whether it's Jared Veldheer, Tramon Williams at the end of the season where you find him on a practice squad, Jared Veldheer, and finding him, Rick Wagner, all these different guys that they've been able to find that have helped this Packers team really maintain success and be successful. And Rasul Douglas is just the really great shining example of that recently. But I would be shocked almost if at some point this season, Brian Gutekunst doesn't find a player, whether it's via another team's practice squad, a la Alan Lazard, or, whether it's a random free agent signing, a practice squad, also Rasul Douglas, whether it's a free agent signing, whether it's a random veteran that gets cut from some team that the Packers decide to take a flyer on, or a mid-season trade. I would be shocked almost at some point if Brian Gutekunst doesn't, and his scouting staff, his pro scouting staff, doesn't somehow unearth some random gem that ends up playing, to 8 to 10 games and helping the Packers win football games this season. It has been a real true superpower of Brian Gutekunst and this front office so far. So to the point where I almost expect it moving forward. Will it happen? We'll have to wait and see. But if I were a betting man right now, yeah, I'll bet they find somebody and they end up playing pretty darn good at some point this season. So that is number 5 for me. Number 4 is Elton Jenkins' versatility. Just a special player that can play, Pro Bowl caliber football at left tackle, at left guard, at center, at right guard, and at right tackle. There are offensive linemen who can play the whole left side. There are offensive linemen who can play the whole right side. There are offensive linemen who can play either tackle position. There are offensive linemen who can play either guard position. There are some interior offensive linemen. There are some, again, just, who just play exterior offensive tackle. There are, different offensive linemen who can do some different things, but the true ability to not only play all 5 positions, but play all 5 of them well is just beyond ridiculous. And when you want a philosophy of, hey, we want our 5 best guys out there, well, guess what? It is a heck of a lot easier if you have a guy that you can play who plays very well at any of the 5 positions. So, if nobody else of your best 5 is a right tackle, all right, Elgton Jenkins will be a right tackle. If everyone else is great on the right side, but terrible at the left, all right, Elgton Jenkins will play left guard. Like, he can just do everything and do it so well that there's just nobody like that. It is incredible to watch what he's able to do at all 5 positions along the offensive line. Number 3 is the Packers' history and culture. And that might sound cute or nostalgic or, all right, Andy, like, guess what? Because Vince Lombardi was the coach, however many years ago, too many now, 60 years ago, whatever it is, 50, 60 years ago, doesn't mean that they're going to go out and beat a team this weekend. No, you're right. It doesn't. But guess what? There are NFL cultures that are so divisive and so toxic and have no idea what they're doing that they have no chance at overall organization success or going out and winning a Super Bowl. There is a reason that certain teams in this league are losing double-digit games every single year. There's a reason that teams are picking in the top 5 to 8 every single year. There are teams like the Browns and the Jaguars and the Texans and all these different teams that are just bad. And the Browns have had an awful culture. The Bears have lately had an awful culture. We'll see if that turns around with the new coach and GM that they have in place right now. But the overall organizational culture can poison a team and rot a team all the way around. The Commanders, that team with Dan Snyder, just rotten to the core. They almost have no chance for success regardless of what players you put on that team. Doesn't matter if you go get Bruce Smith and Deion Sanders, Albert Haynesworth, or any other free agent that they want to sign throughout the course of the years that they've done this. It's just it's a rotten culture and it's really hard to win there. Cleveland, another shining example. So that is the first thing, is that A, you can lose just everything and have almost no chance just based on your culture. But B, having a sustained success of winning over decades, really since Brett Favre, circa 1992, Ron Wolf, Mike Holmgren deserved a ton of that credit. Having that year after year after year, and then, some hiccups along the way, but really going from, Mike Holmgren with a couple stops of Ray Rhodes and Mike Sherman in the middle to Mike McCarthy to Matt LaFleur, and having, Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, there's just a level, there's a bar that's set. And, the minimum bar is a playoff team. And when it wasn't, they had to they had to course correct relatively quick with Ray Rhodes, Mike Sherman, Mike McCarthy when things went south, because the bar is at minimum, you're a playoff team. And that matters. The fact that they have that bar there, that's established, that not going to the playoffs is unacceptable in Green Bay, that really matters. And I think the culture that is in Green Bay, the history, just all the vibes and, players coming in and realizing, hey, Green Bay is special. This is a special place to play. That all goes into it. And that just makes things as a coach and as a GM easier. I know that there's some disadvantages because it's Green Bay and it's cold and not a ton of players want to play in Green Bay, but all the culture stuff, the winning, the history, that really does help. And I do think that the culture that they have in place, that's put in place by Mark Murphy and Brian Gutekunst and Russ Ball and Matt LaFleur and throughout this entire organization, is a very good culture. And I do believe that breeds winning overall. Number 2, Aaron Rodgers and his ability to get free plays at the line of scrimmage, whether that's via 12 men on the field, whether that's via hard count, and teams have caught on. There weren't many hard count free plays last year. He certainly still got some on, too many men on the field, but his ability to get those free plays and then not only get the free 5 yards, but to get the free play and then convert for huge plays on those big plays is really just, it's astounding to watch. Peyton Manning was obviously so good at it, but I believe Rodgers is the best of all time at getting free plays and capitalizing on them, and how he works with his team to make sure that they know exactly what to do when he gets a free play, from Josh Myers to the rest of the offensive line. Like, it literally is a work of art. It's so fun to watch, and it has just been such a huge part of this Packers DNA and this Packers, explosive offense over the course of Aaron Rodgers' career in Green Bay. So that is number 2. And then last but not least, number 1 is just Aaron Rodgers and his ability to play at an MVP level. When you have an MVP quarterback, you basically have the biggest cheat code that there is. And what that is the opportunity to at least compete for a Super Bowl almost every single year, simply based on the fact that you have an MVP caliber quarterback. It's not saying you're going to win it. It's not saying that you're going to get to it. It's not saying that you're going to, win your first playoff game or anything like that. But it's saying that you are competing for one just about every season, just based on the fact that you have an MVP quarterback. Basically, from the time that Favre was playing at an MVP level through about now, I would say 90% of those seasons, you went into it thinking like, all right, I think Green Bay has a chance to win a Super Bowl. That just is what it's been. Has it worked out more often than not? No, it's worked out twice. But you go into basically every season being like, all right, is there anyone right now that doesn't think Green Bay at least has a chance to win a Super Bowl? Because I certainly think they have a chance, whether that's 1% or 10% or anything in between, whatever you want to put it at, that's your own prerogative. But they definitely have a chance because they've got Aaron Rodgers, an MVP quarterback, and the other 9 superpowers that I just listed here. So having him play at that level gives you a puncher's chance at a Super Bowl every single season. And I think they have, at worst, a puncher's chance at a Super Bowl this upcoming year as well because of it. So quick recap. 3 cover corners, Matt LaFleur and his scheme mismatches and scheming players open, Rashan Gary's speed to power and bull rush ability, speed at the inside linebacker, the overall offensive line scouting, development philosophy, etc. Goot and his scouting staff, specifically the pro scouting staff, as they add players throughout the course of the season, Elton Jenkins' versatility, the overall culture of the Green Bay Packers, Aaron Rodgers' ability to get, free plays at the line of scrimmage and his checks at the line of scrimmage. And then, number 1, Aaron Rodgers and his MVP level play that gives the Packers an opportunity to win just about every single game that he is in, and has a chance at a Super Bowl basically every single year. That is going to do it for me today. I always appreciate you. Hope you enjoy your holiday. I will be right back here tomorrow with an all new episode. If you are on the video, if you're on the audio, it'll be Jacob, Jake, and Ross. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.